Welcome to the Bottom Shelf Horror Podcast, the show where a couple of cheap bastards talk horror over a couple of cheap drinks. Join along as we continue our look into the French Christmas horror film Le Calendar, also known in English, The Advent Calendar, released in 2021 on Shudder.
I just want to say it's Le Calendrier, not Le Calendrier.
I like Le Calendar.
Anyways, the Advent Calendar follows an ex-dancer named Eva, who is now paraplegic. On her birthday, she receives an old Advent calendar from her best friend, Sophie. That came from Germany. Upon opening the first few doors, she finds a piece of chocolate, but before she eats it, she learns that there are 3 rules to this calendar. Rule number 1, if you eat one candy, you must eat them all, or you will die. Rule number 2, you can't dump the box, or you will die. Rule number 3, you must obey the rules until the last door of the calendar is opened, or you will die. Thinking that this is just some sick joke, she eats the first piece of chocolate. Little does she know, she just signed herself up for one of the greatest Christmas miracles she could ever imagine. But at what cost? Let's find out.
So I guess, fair warning, we will not be holding back on spoilers, so if you haven't seen this movie yet, and you don't want the movie to be ruined for you, consider this your one and only spoiler warning. But before we get into movie specifics, let's talk about the drinks we have here today.
Yeah, so do you want to introduce your drink?
Yeah, mine is just basically hot chocolate mixed with peppermint vodka, I guess. The Smirnoff peppermint vodka. That hot chocolate mix, I have whipped cream, dehydrated marshmallows, even a little chocolate to go on the side if you want like an Oreo. We have Tim Tams. Tim Tams are good.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and so the other drink that we got here today is, I dubbed it the Advent Cocktail. Mm-hmm. It's basically a 25-ingredient cocktail that I just whipped up with random shit, and it actually tastes decent. Like,
a lot better than you'd think.
You would never expect it. Mm-hmm. But if you want to see how we made both of these drinks, check out our Taste of Horror video that we released on Monday a few days ago. And yeah, let us know if you ever taste these drinks for yourself, because I'd be curious on your thoughts as well.
Yeah, do you want to go a little bit further into details with the horror cocktail? What kind of drinks you use, how much of each drink?
Yeah, I guess so. I went on to, I started with all the hard hitters like vodka, gin, white rum, triple sec, Di Serono. I used all those, all the higher percentage alcohols I put in an ounce of each. Mm-hmm. So there's probably a good 6 or 7 ounces of hard liquor in this.
There was about, I think we counted, and it was 17 hard liquor things.
Not hard liquor. Well, there's a lot of liqueurs in it.
Yeah, like a lot of liqueurs. Like there was some sourpuss and things in there.
Sourpuss,
so
brandies.
Like, we're thinking like an average of like maybe like 25-30% per, give or take.
Yeah, there's a good amount of mix in there with Sprite and some juices, fruit juices. Most of this is like fruity mm-hmm. flavors, so it kind of works in that way. Mm-hmm. But obviously, 25 ingredients. Advent Calendar has 25 doors. That's mm-hmm. kind of what it was inspired by.
Oh, clearly. Yeah. No, it's definitely creative for sure.
But shall we move on to quick recap? Actually, we're going to do this differently. Mm-hmm. Rather than a quick recap of the drinking games rules that we made, we're actually going to go in depth with each rule that we made, and it's going to lead to some discussion, I guess, and mm-hmm. talk about that rule in more detail, and that's how we're going to kind of go through this movie. We're not going to do a whole plot synopsis, because we're going to touch a lot of bases within the rules,
right?
So it's going to be a good discussion, just slowly going through the rules.
Yeah.
So starting off with death, gave us 10 sips. Let's start off. Do you have a favorite death in this movie?
I mean, there's a lot of great ones. If I were to take one specifically, it would probably be the mother.
Okay, the stepmother.
Yeah, just for the main fact that it's Eva playing 5D chess. Yeah. Ava, it's like, happy Christmas, here's an Advent calendar, and the first thing stepmother does is fucking destroys it, which kills her. And I'm just like, oh my god, you're a genius.
Yeah. That's a good one.
It's her basically predicting what her stepmother would do and pretty much making her kill herself.
Yeah, that was a good one. It was very vindicating, I guess, because you hated that character. And
Yeah.
she was there to hate, obviously.
Oh yeah, she was there to die pretty much.
Yeah. And another character that was also there to hate, which I liked the death and how creative it was, but it wasn't quite my favorite. It was Boris's death. He was the one that introduced Eva to the My Trader Online app. He was the one of the friends that met her at the bar with her other friend Sophie. It was like a double date, I guess.
Yeah.
And he tried to take Eva home, and basically he just took advantage of her. She fell asleep in his car, and he sexually assaulted her. And long and short of it, seeing him die was very, again, vindicated. I felt very vindicated that he died, and glad he died. But the way he died was creative, I thought. So one of the doors on the calendar opened up, and it showed, I forget if it was a Mercedes vehicle.
It was a car, some sort.
It was the same model of the car that he had. And Marvin, Eva's dog, found the car because she stayed in bed or something, didn't open the calendar, so it opened on its own. And the dog found the car and started chewing on the car and biting down on it, tossing it around. And pretty much, it was kind of like a voodoo doll effect. That car was acting as Boris's real car in real life. So it was getting tossed around. You saw him tossing and turning, getting chewed down on. There was some random entity in real life chewing down on his car. We don't really know what happened.
Well, I think it was basically like a voodoo type of car thing.
Well, that's exactly what I think is just a voodoo type situation. And I thought it was pretty creative, just a new take on voodoo, I guess. And I thought it was a pretty clever death. It wasn't my favorite death, but it was up there.
Oh, yeah. How did the boss die again? Out of curiosity. I'm trying to remember.
The dog, Marvin, went and killed him. We don't see his death.
Yeah.
It was off screen. It was implied. And that's another thing worth mentioning, the deaths. We did include the implied ones that weren't seen, but the dog comes back all bloody and his mouth is all bloody.
That's right. All I remember is that the movie starts off with the dog being basically 2 for 2.
Yeah.
Like the dog has 100% of the kill count. Probably like 25 minutes into the movie, whenever things start to get, I guess, deadly.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit further in. But anyways, other deaths that were worth mentioning is the voodoo dolls. Speaking of that, with the car, you got Ava's co-worker who was taking a bath.
Yeah, she was in the bathtub, and then Ava gets this, it's a doll of some sort, and at this point she kind of knows what it is. I don't think she knows who it's harming, but she knows it's harming somebody, and at this point she's just kind of just fed up with everything, so she starts ripping out the doll's hair, breaking all the limbs.
I think it might have looked like her coworker a little bit.
Maybe it did a little bit. Maybe she knew it was. I don't remember that for sure.
Yeah.
But that was actually my favorite death, was seeing her just rip out all the hair, and then it cuts to her in the bathtub. She's pulling out her hair, and it's all falling out, and it's falling out in the same way that she's pulling out of the doll, which I thought was great attention to detail. And then she starts breaking the limbs, and then you see her limbs breaking in the tub, and it kept cutting back and forth to the doll and to the coworker in agony, and I just liked the way that it was shot. It wasn't anything new. Obviously we've seen voodoo dolls in effect with other horror movies, but it was my favorite kill to watch because of how gruesome it was, I guess.
Yep. I think out of all those deaths, I still think my favorite is probably the mother, just because the way it was done, I thought it was, I guess, the most effective. I liked how Ada basically didn't have to do anything besides basically think of what her stepmother would do and her actions and everything like that.
She didn't have to kill her herself.
She didn't have to do it directly.
She knew what was going to happen, and if her stepmother just listened to the rules, she would be alive. And that just payback, I guess. Karma's a bitch.
Okay, let's move on to the next rule, which is whenever you hear somebody scream, cry, or yell, which was a total of 12 sips.
There's not a whole lot to say about this rule specifically, but I think it's a good time to touch on the characters and the acting. I think specifically with Eva, I don't exactly know how it's said, but what are your thoughts on her character and her as an actor portraying this character? Do you think it was effective?
Yeah, she was a standout.
I would say so. There's one scene in particular, which I think we'll get into a little bit more detail later on in this episode, but she comes face to face with Eek, and it's after her friends just died, and she's just clearly super distressed and falling apart kind of thing, and you can just see the tension and suffering in her eyes, I guess. And I think she does a pretty good job. I don't think the acting is the standout thing of this movie, but all the characters kind of fill their role as they need to.
I guess more specifically, the scene that I like the most from her, it's just, I think she was like sitting in her wheelchair like in a park, and just people that are like running and everything like that. It made you, in a way, just like her, I guess, what would you call, like almost like notions, and just like the way she was like feeling and like how she was looking at people.
You can tell she wished she could do that.
It made you almost feel guilty for walking.
Yeah.
Which is, I say, really well done.
I would agree with that.
If you make somebody feel guilty for walking, you're doing something right.
But it's not like she was trying to make you feel that intentionally. It's just her expressions and stuff. You can see her longing for that. Like that's kind of what her wish in life is to be able to walk again. And like, I think the acting overall was decent enough. I would say her friend Sophie is a piece of shit, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like, as a character.
Dude, so Boris, she was supposed to go on a date with Boris and set her friend up with...
Hunter was his name.
Hunter. I called him Hunter throughout the movie because I didn't remember his name, but his only attribute was, like, he had something to do with, like, hunting, like, deer or something like that. So, it was a happy accident that I was like... Hunter's doing this now.
You're clairvoyant, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It just worked out. I don't know.
But yeah, she ended up stealing him as a date, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And then leaving Boris to Eva, which obviously we know took advantage of her.
Yeah.
Tried to play it off like it was her faking her disability or something. And
yeah. Either way, stealing a date pretty much is like, hey, want to go on a double date? Yeah, I guess, sure, whatever. And she didn't even want to go on it that bad.
She didn't, no. But stealing it from your supposed best friend adds another layer to it, too. Yeah. So. But anyways.
That's a bad friend thing to do.
Absolutely.
Want to move on?
Let's move on to the third rule. We got chocolate or candy is eaten. And this happened 11 times. Obviously, it's the main thing... throughout the calendar. It's what you find in most doors, I guess, is candy or chocolate. It's kind of the thing that gets the ball rolling, kind of tells you it sets the story up for you, I guess. And
I guess they all kind of do different things as well. We should mention that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. One thing I do want to mention before we move on to what the candies and chocolates do is I'm glad they stuck to the chocolate being the item in the Advent calendar, because that's obviously what you would find in a traditional Advent calendar in real life. So I'm glad they stuck to that rather than putting like just random objects to try and make it spookier or something. I'm glad they didn't do that. They went the simple approach. There's a couple random items like that toy car,
the doll.
There's different things like that, which it's nice that they added some but didn't go over the top with it, I think. So yeah, I'm glad they used the chocolate, and another layer of that is it's a seemingly harmless treat that, like, you know, most people wouldn't think twice about finding a chocolate in an Advent calendar. They're going to eat it. So it has that layer as well. But some of them do different things, like you mentioned. One in particular that stands out is there's like white chocolate, I think, or candy, and it's kind of in the shape of like Jesus or God or something. And every time she eats one of those candies, it kind of,
helps her legs a little bit?
It helps her legs and progress to start being able to walk again. And you slowly see that kind of taking form as she gets more and more of these. But every time she takes one, she kind of blacks out and she doesn't really know what happened, but we get to see it happen still. So that's one example. Do you have another example of what some of them do?
Yeah, I guess the love potion where she makes a guy fall in love with him.
Yeah, that's a good one for sure.
Yeah.
There's some that I don't know if they actually fast forward time or if it just like kind of blacks her out. Like she goes into a blackout and you don't see what happens for a few days because she eats this chocolate and then all of a sudden
like 48
it's 3 days later.
Yeah, something like that.
So I don't know if it actually fast forwards time or if she just blacks out and doesn't remember it, because we do see the candy wrappers still there. So she obviously ate them.
Yeah.
She just doesn't remember it. So I don't know which one it is, but either way, it caused an effect separate of that.
Yeah, she ate the candy wrappers for those 48-hour ones. Or what was it, 72 hours? The 3 days that she missed?
3 days. She still ate all the candy from it.
But she didn't go to work.
She didn't go to work.
She didn't go to work.
That's true. So we don't, that's another thing. It's like, I guess it's ambiguous whether it actually fast forward time or just sent her into a blackout she doesn't remember.
Yeah. Anyways, move on to rule number 4.
Yep.
A date or number is shown as a title card, which was 19 total sips.
Yeah.
There was a little Easter egg, or I guess I think there was a few of them. When there was some of the dates, so like the 14th, you saw, like the address was like 14.
Yeah, of her dad's house. Yeah, it showed us the day 14, and then a couple minutes into that day, you see her walking up to her dad's house, and it shows 14 as his address number. And I think it happens again with, maybe it was Eva's house number or friends. I can't remember.
I think it was Eva's house number.
But it was 17 maybe. I don't know for sure.
I could have sworn it happened a few more times, but they honestly just kind of passed me now.
They're very subtle, and it's easy to miss them if you're not actually looking for them, which
exactly.
I think this was your first time watching it.
It was my first time watching it.
So, of course, you're not really going to see it. I caught a couple just because it's my second time viewing it, but if I went back and watched it again with the intention of finding Easter eggs, I'm sure there's more for sure. But there's not much else to say on that. It's a pretty straightforward rule. Can't go in depth about it. So we'll move on to, again, another straightforward rule. It's rule number 5. It's whenever a door on the calendar is opened, and that gave us 19 sips as well. The only thing is you need a key to open the door. We don't see every door opened because of the blackouts like we talked about. But, yeah, pretty decent number, 19.
Oh, yeah, 19, same number with a date or number shown on the title card, which lines up. I feel like there's some way that when counting we scoot up a little bit, but that's A-okay.
Yeah. There's always a little bit of room for error with us. Take each of our numbers with a little bit of grain of salt.
I guarantee whenever you drink, you're not going to count every rule exactly. And, we're not, doing this in a professional setting where it's, we have to know each and every time that this happens.
We don't analyze each and every frame, let's say.
Yeah.
We watch the movie and count as we see it.
Yeah, we watch it. We do once. We don't do, a million times and try to,
we're not
this definitely happens this many times.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
We're not
we don't
paid
have
for this.
We don't have a budget.
We have no budget. We're not paid for this, so... Yeah, we're not perfect.
If you want to know the exact numbers of deaths,
we're just a couple drunks.
Yeah, if you want to know the exact number of deaths, go to Dead Meat.
Yeah, they don't have this movie there.
I'm pretty sure, sometimes even when we have deaths, they differ a little bit, but
oh, probably. He's got his own rules that he follows for death too. Sometimes he doesn't count on screen. Sometimes he does, or off screen rather.
Sometimes he doesn't count zombies either.
That's right. Yeah.
Sometimes he does, or was it zombies that he counts? I don't know.
It depends on the movie.
He does different rules. I don't know Dead Meat's entire lore. So I guess we can move on to the next rule, right? Which is rule number 6.
Rule number 6.
Yeah, so whenever eek pops up on the calendar, that's a sip, which came to 14.
Yeah, so it happens every night at midnight. It's to indicate to Ava that she needs to open the corresponding door to that day. And it repeats a German phrase on loop until she opens the door. So it can get pretty annoying if she doesn't open it.
I don't even know what it says.
It translates to something along the lines of "it is midnight," and she doesn't really know exactly what it means. She understands what it means, but she doesn't directly translate it or anything.
Yeah.
But
because that's German, right?
Yep, that's because it came from Germany, and that just translates to "it is midnight." So telling her she needs to open the door. But it's just something that is annoying to her.
Yeah.
It's worth mentioning that this was a rule we considered was every time it spoke.
But it's literally whenever eek pops up. Eek pops up. Eek pops up.
And we'll get to eek. I guess it's next
How
rule.
about we get to eek now?
Yeah, so it's whenever a vision of the real life eek is shown, either in a quick flash or in person. Sometimes it's like a vision or a dream, maybe hallucination. Sometimes it's him in actually physical form. But either way, it gave us 11 sips. And And I think, like, at the start of the movie, it's when we see the quick flashes of him, and it's either a vision or a dream. But then it slowly progresses through the movie to finally seeing him in person. He kind of starts to show himself in real life once Eva stops taking her hallucination medications. And to me, that kind of gives me a hint that maybe he is just a hallucination the whole time. But let's talk about the name Eek.
Mm-hmm.
So Eek is German for I, like I.
Yeah.
I am me. I, Eek. It translates from German to English, obviously. But why do you think they chose the name Eek, or I? Do you think it has a deeper meaning to it?
So I know the calendar is based off of the person itself. So, I mean, it's really funny because the first person that we found out how the calendar prior was a man who is blind.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, or I guess coincidentally, he was, like, his vision was missing, so it's literally his eyes. I think that's mainly coincidental is the main thing. However, like, I think it's neat was just like, Eek will kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I will kill you. So it's like that he possesses it. So there's that.
Mm-hmm. For me, I think it has a little bit of, like, it's almost a metaphor or an analogy. Like, I will kill you, but who is I? I is me. So therefore, like, all of this is my own doing. I'm the one causing my own death. Okay. I'm the one doing this to myself. And that's why I think it's
I'm the one doing that to others, too, if you want to stretch the truth like that.
For sure.
Because, for example, like, it was Boris that she's like, I wish you were dead.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happens.
He dies, right?
And right after she wishes that. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's just it. On a surface level, this movie, the theme of it is careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Are you willing to sacrifice everything and everyone in your life to fulfill your dreams and wishes?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, like, I control my own destiny, like I said, and I'm the one who decides my own fate in a way. I think Eek is symbolic, and he represents oneself, whoever possesses that calendar. In this case, Eva, obviously. Mm-hmm. So I think Eek represents Eva as herself, and she's the one deciding. She's making her own decisions.
Yeah. No, I can definitely believe that.
She decided to eat the chocolate, even after reading the warning. Sure, she probably didn't assume that it was a real warning. Mm-hmm. She probably assumed, like, this is just some joke, like we mentioned in our intro. But I think, so what I'm getting at is I think Eva ultimately is Eek. She sees him in her dreams and as hallucinations after she stops taking her medication. Mm-hmm. So it seems like it's happening in real life, and I guess it is real for her.
Yeah.
She's really experiencing it, but rather if it's actually there or not is up in the air, I guess, and up for interpretation.
Yeah. And I guess definitely it's like showing her deepest desires, like she wants to walk again.
Yeah.
How she subconsciously thinks that her friend was the cause of her accident, even though, like, it could have been her fault.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we actually see that play out in one scene where she's saying over and over again, I don't blame her, and she's kind of saying this out loud so that Eek will hear it, but she's kind of reassuring herself, like, it's not her fault, even though deep down she does believe it.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't really matter what she believes. It's like there's still, like, a subconscious part that, like, wants to blame her friend. Even though she knows it isn't true, she still wants to blame her friend, which, like, I get it in a sense. Like, you were sending a text to your friend, and it's not their fault. But at the same time, it's like, if I wasn't sending a text to this friend, man, I'd still be a great dancer. Right. So on and so forth.
Yeah. And I think something else I did want to point out, I actually watched a really good video about this, and we'll shout him out. It was the Hidden Object Guru on YouTube. That's his channel name. He did a really in-depth explanation of the Advent calendar and some deeper connections it has, which we won't get into too much detail because it would take another hour to get through. But long and short of it is there's a lot of religious matter in this movie. It is very subtle at times, but it boils down to, are you willing to sacrifice your own soul to the devil to get your wishes granted to you? Similar as, like, the overall theme, that careful what you wish for. Similar concept, but, like, it goes much deeper in that, and there's a whole lot of meaning behind a lot of things. Like, for example, on the MyTrader Online app, the number was 457. That's how much money was deposited into her account from Boris. And that 457, I don't remember the exact details, but it was a specific verse in the Bible. And when you read that verse, it really connects with the movie in a lot of ways. So there's a lot of hidden gems that connects to religion in that way, specifically like Christianity.
Interesting.
So it is a very interesting video, and we'll link it down in the description here. I recommend checking it out if you haven't already, because it's an interesting connection to see all of these things he points out, and there's a lot that you would ever catch if it's your first time watching this movie.
Yeah, no, that's a neat take for sure.
Yeah.
I guess Eek in general, I have to start pronouncing his name right. The first thing that I got besides Nosferatu was when he was in like the live action scenes, is he looked like Pyramid Head without the pyramid head.
Yeah, that's true. Just his body shape, like his shape,
like his body shape. It looks like the actor was like clearly on stilts. And it looks like he should have had like a giant sword in hand, and just the way that he walks, it looked like Pyramid Head without the pyramid head.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't think about that when I was watching it, but that's a good description rather. And in just talking about how he looked, I think I liked his look. I liked how he had the numbers carved into his body. So like there was 25 days on the calendar. He had a whole bunch of numbers carved into his body, which I thought was a good touch. It was subtle, but there was definitely some numbers there. And it's easy to miss if you're not seeing it.
Yeah.
There's a couple scenes. There's only a couple scenes in general where we see his whole body, like, actually for an extended period of time. So during those scenes, you can kind of see it. But there's numbers carved into his body, and I thought that was a nice little touch. And overall, he just kind of looked creepy. He had a weird face and weird messed up mouth.
Yeah, we refer to him as Nosferatu.
Yeah, and he did have a mask on too, but it was like a half mask kind of. You still saw his mouth.
Yeah,
but overall, I liked the look of him. I thought it was a decent look. Yeah, and pretty effective.
And as you mentioned the numbers, like I honestly don't remember the numbers carved onto his body at all.
It wasn't all over. Like they were just randomly kind of carved in here and there, just enough to like. It's subtle, but it doesn't overtake his whole body because that would be overkill. But it's they are there for sure.
Yeah, no, I might have recognized it or seen it on a second watch,
or if you went in knowing they were there or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but now if I watch it again, I'll probably recognize it and look for it for sure. I guess I'm going to do the next rule here.
Yeah.
Next rule is, what was it? Ava's father's mentioned.
Yep.
And that was 10 sips, right?
10 sips, yeah.
10 sips.
And this it's one of the more common people in Ava's life that are involved with her wishes. We get to see him quite often throughout the movie because of her wishes. Anytime that it involves an after 8 chocolate is when her dad's going to be involved in some way.
Because it's just like she mentioned earlier on in the movies, like after 8 chocolates, my dad's favorite.
Dad's favorite, yeah.
And then what was her friend's name again?
Sophie.
Sophie mentioned like, oh, if you eat it, then you'll be closer to your dad, something along those lines. And then she eats it, her dad calls. Yeah,
calls on a phone that doesn't work.
Yeah, on a phone that doesn't work.
Is not connected. Yeah. So clearly this calendar has some power. Or again, going back to the hallucination thing, she's just seeing and hearing what she wants to see. So we don't know. It's up to interpretation. That's the way I interpret it.
Yeah. Well, it's just like at the same time, it's like Eek. Where it's just like, this is what she wants to see, this is what she wants to hear. So that's
she wants an explanation.
Yeah.
And so
she wants to see her dad. She wants to talk to her dad. So
exactly.
That's what Eek's presenting.
Yep. But he clearly has Alzheimer's or dementia or some form of memory loss. He doesn't remember Eva. But throughout the movie, we see her wishing that he would remember her, and we see it coming true. And like when she goes to visit, against her stepmother's will, she gets into his house, and she is his own daughter, and her stepmother's not letting her in. That's just a side note,
right?
But she's just a bitch. The stepmother is.
Yeah.
But even this, I think, is still part of her hallucinations. Again, I think she is visiting her dad. I think her dad is there, and she's there visiting him. but I think she's just seeing and hearing what she wants to hear. And she wants him to remember her. And we even see him at one point in the movie talking to her, and he's like aware of what the calendar is doing. He's like, I understand that you need to do this, and you like basically he's sacrificing himself, giving her permission to sacrifice him for her greater good. And he somehow knows that this calendar is leading to her being able to walk. And if it's not a hallucination where she's clearly aware of this because she's the one living it, but he's not living it, so how would he know it, especially without the memory? So that's what I think is hallucination. That's the only way I can really explain it.
The reason why I actually don't think it's hallucination is just because of the final scene in the movie where it's 1 year later and there's a guy knocking on the door trying to find Ava because of the calendar that he now has possession of. But we'll get on to
get to the ending.
We'll get into the ending in a little bit here, a little later.
But either way, I think by wishing that her dad would remember her, or you know, just prolonging the inevitable, I think she's torturing herself. Because she's got to go through that grief of, I guess, being forgotten by her own dad. And I mean, I know what it's like for a loved one to get Alzheimer's or dementia or, you know, one of those diseases, and then they forget who you are. It's basically like they pass away in a sense, because that person that you knew and loved is no longer that person. They don't remember you. Well, they're still that person, but like, you know what I mean.
But like a part of them is gone, right?
Exactly. And you can't share those memories with them anymore, and it's like, it's the closest thing to horror in real life that I can think of. Because we can't explain it. So I think she's just torturing herself by trying to bring him back. And
like that's the further thing with Eek is if you want somebody to move on, like subconsciously, a lot of this is subconsciously, like her desires. Like maybe she wants her father to move on. And basically move on to the afterlife. So her subconscious is basically, she feeds the after eight mint, and the after eight mint says, like, it doesn't matter if you sacrifice me, do what's best for you.
That's right,
And that's pretty much it.
Which and like, I do believe a father would say to his daughter, too. Well, a loving father, that would be. Which clearly they have a good relationship. Not the stepmother, but the father and her had at least had a good relationship. So I could see him actually saying that and believing it. I still lean towards the hallucination thing, but I mean, it's however you interpret it. I don't think there's a right or wrong way of looking at it with this movie. But anyways, enough about her dad. Let's move on to the second last rule, which is a flashback or memory occurs. This only gave us 5 sips, but it's definitely an important way that we learn about what happened to Eva that bound her to the wheelchair. And also her best friend that... So, let me backtrack. What happened to Eva is her best friend, Sophie, that we see in the beginning, gave her the calendar. She was the one that actually got into a car accident a few years ago, and we see that kind of play out in Eva's memory as a flashback. Or memory, whatever you want to call it. And that's kind of... It's character building, like we said in our drinking game. But there's a couple scenes that this kind of leads to, I think, that I want to touch on. A couple of my favorite scenes. So one scene that we kind of briefly touched on in the Scream, Cry, and Yell rule is when Sophie and Ava are having a heart-to-heart about how Sophie blames herself and lives with guilt about what she did to Eva, but Eva says that she doesn't blame her. We hear her saying it repeatedly over and over to herself without Sophie even being there, that she doesn't blame her. She doesn't blame her. And then Sophie then goes to do the dirty with Hunter, which she gives him a pill, which is Viagra, which was actually in the calendar.
Like, why'd she give it to him? Like,
well, Eva didn't see she didn't see the candy.
She like swapped it out or something.
She swapped
like
it out. She had a piece of gum. Or something.
It was a piece of gum. It was like, this is in the calendar. She swapped it out. Like I don't get that part really.
Well, she saw that it was Viagra. She knew she was going to be hanging out with Hunter, so she's like, I'm going to use this. This is going to help me later.
How'd she know it was Viagra though?
Because it had a little penis on it.
I don't know.
And, I mean, if you know what Viagra looks like, you know what Viagra looks like. One of those pills. They're a little blue pill. I think they even call it the blue pill. Mm-hmm. Anyways, it had a penis on it. It was definite. It was clear what it was if you knew what it was, I guess. Mm-hmm. If you've never taken it, which I have never, but I've seen it before, I guess. I know what it looks like. So, plus it had a penis on it. Yeah. So, that's how I knew what it was. Anyways, she stole that from the calendar. So, Eva didn't get to eat that candy. Sophie did. It's a little bit of a loop. Like, it's kind of a plot hole.
Right.
Because Sophie eats the candy, but she doesn't eat any other candy from the calendar.
Or no, Hunter eats the candy, but...
Well, yeah, sorry. Hunter eats the candy, but he doesn't eat any of the other candies. I mean, it's not a candy, it's Viagra. Maybe that's the whole... Maybe that's why it works, because it's not technically a candy.
It's a pill, yeah.
Maybe that's why it is. Maybe that's why Eve
I think it's just a plot hole, to be honest.
I think so, too. But anyways, Hunter eats it, but he doesn't eat any of the other candy, so he ends up dying along with Sophie in that scene.
Speaking of which, if we're talking about plot holes, how she feeds the love potion to the other guy, I forgot his name already.
William.
Okay, yeah. I know she feeds that candy to William too, so plot holes everywhere. Yep. She doesn't have to eat every candy. She gives an after eight to her dad.
Yeah. No, there's definitely some plot holes with that rule for sure. And it's easy to catch them, but I can look past them.
It could be just like maybe mistranslation. It's just like somebody has to eat the candy.
Maybe, yeah.
It could be that.
It could be a translation error, but I think we're just trying to fill these holes ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
But that's besides the point. Anyways, back to this scene. We see Sophie and Hunter both die. And then we see Eek face to face, like close up with Eva. And this is the part of the acting that kind of sticks out, because we can see the terror in her face, because she's like right close with him. And, you know, she doesn't know what he is. She doesn't know why he's there. But he ends up giving her a piece of chocolate or candy or something that she hadn't eaten yet, or I don't know. But she ends up eating that, and I don't know how it saves the plot hole or anything like that. But the point is, I like that scene, plot holes aside, because of how we got to see E close up and see them right face to face, and it was just, it hit hard, I guess, to see the terror in her face.
Yeah. I guess we're still on flashbacks here.
Yep.
Another form of a flashback from Eva's perspective is a scene where William answers the phone in her apartment when she isn't home, and she tries to write in the bathroom or something like that. She tries to go back in time to save William.
Yeah. So we see first from William's perspective.
We see first William's death, and there's a message that like carved into the mirror.
We learn it's the mirror, but it's on the calendar. It's a little, I guess it's the back of a mirror.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But it's written backwards. It says, "Don't dump me."
Yeah, don't dump me.
And right when he sees that writing on, like, it's seemingly written on its own, out of nowhere, he's like, "Fuck this shit," and goes and dumps it.
First
of all, it's not even his belonging to go and wreck.
But like, he knows that it has supernatural elements.
He's clearly seeing it affecting Eva, which is, you know, he's seeing her go through this trauma, I guess, so he wants to help her. So I get why he's doing it. Yeah. I still think it was the wrong, I mean, his death aside, I think it was the wrong move because it's not his to throw away, but I get why he did it.
And I think Eva filled him in on like everything with the calendar, and I think along with that, it's just like, if you dump it, you die. I could be wrong, but I'm assuming Eva wouldn't have left out that information, right?
Maybe. I don't know if he actually knew the full extent of the calendar at this point.
I'd imagine she probably
maybe, but I don't know if he would have. She would have gone into that much detail, because clearly he didn't. Well, he didn't know, or he didn't believe that he would die if he dumped it.
One of those.
But yeah, anyways, we see it from his perspective first. He answers the phone, and it's actually Eva talking. I don't remember what she's saying, but she's talking to him through this phone that, again, is disconnected. It doesn't actually work. But he hears this, and then he sees this carving in the mirror, and then he dumps it. But we get to see later on the reason why that even carved into there is from Eva's perspective. She's in the bathroom, and then there's a little hole in the mirror that she can see light through, and she can actually see him answering the phone, and we learn that. That's why he can hear her on the phone. She's talking through the phone somehow. It's not really explained. Doesn't make a lot of sense. It's, again, maybe not explained in some ways. Supernatural. Give it that explanation. Yeah. That's what we have to accept. But we see her point of view carving, "Don't dump me," into the mirror. And then he doesn't know that, obviously. I thought it was just a really cool shot, like movie scene. I thought it was shot cleverly. I thought it looked cool. And I thought it was a fun way to kind of come back to it, a callback to that scene, I guess, from a different perspective. So I just liked this, not the cinematography, but just the idea.
Yeah, I like the idea how it was linked
and the way
together.
It was executed.
Yeah.
Again, don't really understand the logistics on how it works in real life or why it works, but I think that's just something we have to look past if we can.
Yeah.
That's the point, I guess, of this scene.
So anyways, let's move on to the last rule. I was about to say last and final till I noticed that was the same thing. The last rule, anyways, is whenever My Trader Online is mentioned or shown, which came to a total of 8 sips. Kind of random, but it does happen quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to say a staple throughout the movie. You could have done with or without. But it happens frequently enough. It shows that the success that the Advent calendar can bring and Eek can bring towards people.
Yeah. And I think it's a good device to give Boris some character development in a way, because he's like a financial, I don't know if he's a banker or some sort of financial advisor guy or what, but it gives him some character, like he gives him some personality, some reason to be there, I guess, which it works. It kind of seems random, but even with this rule with the My Trader Online app, we mentioned the 457 having biblical connections. There is some other connections that, again, the Hidden Object Guru touches on in his video. We're not going to go into them because I don't even remember them all, but there is some religious connections to different Bible verses throughout and connecting it to My Trader Online. So if you're interested in finding that out, definitely check his video out again. But yeah, like you said, it does give us a handful of drinks. It happens quite often. So it was worth including in our drinking game.
Yeah.
Worth discussing about, I guess.
So how many drinks did that give us?
Well, 4 cans in total, 119 sips. That's, of course, based on our 30 sip per can scale that we roughly use. And I'd say it's a good average drinking game, decent enough drinks, not going overboard like some other drinking games, not too little. It's just a nice middle ground. And I think it's actually a good movie to do the drinking game too, because you don't have to think about the story that much, but you also can think about it in a deeper level, like we have discussed a bit. It's
not like I'm just trying to think of I think Donnie Darko would be a bad drinking game for the main fact that you'd have to think a lot. Movies off the top of my head anyways, or like I'm just trying to think of another great example for horror movies where you have to think a lot.
Yeah,
I want to say maybe The Shining, but like even with our Shining drinking game, everything was really well paced.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Because it's such a long movie, it doesn't feel like, it kind of feels like a casual drinking game for that one. So in that sense, it works. But there's some movies where you have to think about what's going on, pay attention to every little detail. And a drinking game might not be great for that if it's your first time watching it. So, but this isn't one of those movies. I think it's good because you can think about it on a deeper level. Yeah. But it also works just on a surface level as well.
So speaking about things on a deeper level, let's talk about the ending a little bit. Yeah. So in the ending, Ava sleeps with a guy she met at the swimming pool hunk, we'll call him, I guess.
Sure.
So she wants to live it up while she can still feel the lower half of her body.
Yeah, I guess at this point, we should say that she can walk.
Yeah, she can walk.
She went through the progression of the calendar, and now she can walk, she can feel her lower body, and yeah, like you said, she wants to live it up.
So she opens the final door of the calendar, and then, whatchamacallit, she believes, I think there's some indication that when she eats the final piece of chocolate, that'll be back to December 1st, and her life will be normal again.
Back to what it was before. And she learns that from the blind guy, because he ate the final piece, and it went back, and he just forgot everything that happened, and we learned that from the blind guy.
Yeah, and then she's basically like disclosing all this information to the swimmer
guy.
hunk.
Yeah.
The swimmer hunk. And yeah, basically she's like, what do I have to lose? Like, no matter what, it's going to end out the same way.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, everyone's supposed to be alive again. She's still supposed to be in a wheelchair. It's like nothing ever happened.
Exactly.
So, swimmer guy comes in and then has a fantastic realization that there is a technicality to the calendar.
Yeah.
And the third rule states that every rule must be obeyed until the final door is open. So that means since Ava opened the final door, she didn't eat the chocolate yet, but she opened the final door. That means all the rules are void now.
Yeah, exactly.
So she can do whatever she wants, meaning that she doesn't have to eat the chocolate. So that if she chooses, she can continue to live her life the way it is.
Being able to
walk again.
Her dad's dead. Her friends are dead. Her dog's dead.
Everything's dead.
She doesn't have her job anymore because her boss and coworker are dead.
Yeah, she can find a new job, I guess.
She doesn't like them anyways. But
yeah, her dad was decaying.
Well, he ended up being dead in the end.
He had dementia, something along those lines, memory loss.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you can kind of understand from that perspective.
Yeah.
But, like, her friend's dead. Even though it seems like she's her only friend, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, and then at the same time, she can choose to eat the chocolate, and then everything goes back to what it was on December 1st, like you said. And it's kind of like the
ambiguous.
It's left ambiguous on what she chooses, but the moral choice is eat the chocolate because you don't want to kill everybody you love.
You killed these people.
Yeah,
right?
It's kind of your fault or your doing. You can unwind all that and just live your life normally through the month of December again.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go the selfish route. Nobody would ever think otherwise of you. You'd just be you and that swimmer guy, and you guys are kind of the only one that really know what's happened at this point. So she can do that. I guess William's another one, the love interest that she was into. He's gone, so she would never have met him.
But he never would have fell in love with her.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So that wouldn't be a part of it anymore. Like, yeah, it's just, there's a lot of things trying to persuade her or convince her to not eat the chocolate. There's a lot of reasons to not eat the chocolate, I guess.
There's reasons to and to not.
Exactly. So what do you think she did? Do you think she ate it?
Or
do you think
I'll let
she
you
did
go
not?
first because I have evidence to support mine.
Okay. So, yes, the ending is left ambiguous. It's up to us whether we believe she ate the chocolate or not. One thing we should mention is she does make a recording before eating it or not eating it, explaining the calendar in more detail so that if somebody happens to get this calendar in the future, they kind of understand it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Compared to, because you're supposed to leave an item in the calendar, and that's why she found the painter guy, because he left one of his paintings there.
Yeah.
Anyways, did she eat the chocolate or not? I could argue both ways. Like, like we mentioned, there's reasons both ways why she would or wouldn't. But I think she kind of morally took the high ground and understood, like, it's too selfish for me to just do all this and sacrifice all this just so I can walk again. You know, she didn't want to be the writer of her own story. She chose to live the path that was kind of destined for her from the beginning. So she, I think, eats the chocolate and is back into the wheelchair like the next, the following day when she wakes up. Everything's back to her normal, I guess.
So here's my perspective. Boris a-hole dies. Boyfriend who she forced to love him dies, but reminding you she forced to love him.
Yeah.
Evil stepmom dies. Father dies, which father loss of memory, all this. Basically is like a part of him's already gone.
Yes.
Friend that she blames subconsciously for her disability dead. The guy from the swimming pool hunk, I forgot his name, doesn't matter. Alive. And
into her
for her.
Yeah.
Like he tries to come over to her house and
thinking that she's still
a paraplegic.
Yeah.
And like even at the swimming pool, like she's going swimming. He's like, hey, if you need a lift out, just
give me a show.
And I'll give you a hand. And like he was thrown off by it at first. And then it seemed like he was into her. So, with all that being said, all the people are dicks, except for swimmer hunk, who's still alive. So it makes sense that she kept that life, because she can walk again, and somebody who genuinely likes her for her is alive. However, I think the evidence at the end supports the fact that she decided to eat the chocolate. And the reasoning why is because, A, the calendar is intact, and Swimmer Hunk yeets it off the side of the building.
We see him throw it off the side of the building. That's how he proves that this calendar won't hurt him, because he dumps it. So he throws it off this tall building, and if you dump it, you will die, right?
Yep.
So
and he doesn't die.
He doesn't die. That's how he proves to Eva that it's over.
That it's basically her choice.
Yeah.
So she does decide to eat the chocolate because the calendar's intact. Her phone's probably inside the calendar. Also, I'd be super pissed off. Her phone's inside the calendar, and boy just fucking yeets it off of the building. Just saying that. Like, you could have proved it some other way. Just saying.
Yeah.
You could have explained it. You didn't have to fuck up her phone. I mean, he didn't know, but
yeah.
Either way, with all the evidence, I think she decided to eat it.
I think so, too.
Even though I feel like it would have made more sense if she didn't eat the chocolate.
From a selfish...
At that point,
standpoint, you're kind of just playing God, right? So, and it kind of goes back to the religious connections, I guess. You're kind of the writer of your own destiny. Like, do you want to be the one that decides, sacrifice all these things to get what you want and not care about what happens to everybody else?
Or you're going to take the selfless
exactly
outcome. Yeah.
And I think you're right that she does to eat the chocolate. Like you said, the calendar reappears going to another person. That's the calendar targets people that have a deep wish, like they have a disability, like the blind man. He wants to see again. Eva wants to walk again. I don't know what this guy's issue is that it goes to in the end of the movie. We don't learn that, but it obviously targets him for a deeper reasoning, not just some. I want some money. It's
it more than likely targeted him for a specific reason. We'll say. Yeah.
And we do see the calendar intact, but who knows? Maybe the calendar didn't actually, get destroyed by throwing it. Maybe it landed in a bush or something. Like you can explain it away like that. But if it got tossed off, and Eva woke up the next day back in her wheelchair and everything, how does the calendar get delivered to that guy's house? Because it got delivered to Eva from her friend Sophie from Germany. Yep. She brought it back as a souvenir.
She stole it or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. So how does it end up on this guy's doorstep?
Yeah.
In order to end up on this doorstep, Eva would have had to deliver it, or somebody found it and just put it on this guy's doorstep randomly. Yeah. But if Eva was the one to deliver it, that means she didn't eat the chocolate, most likely, and just, delivered it somehow. Yeah. But there's different ways to look at it. It's ambiguous. I don't think there's a right or wrong reason.
No, there's not.
Or way of looking at it.
If they made a sequel today, I could see it going either way. And they have, I guess, full creative control on what to do. And that's the same thing with the audience. It's like, I'm the kind of guy that loves to see evidence and loves to have an actual conclusion. So that's the conclusion that I'm going to draw. Yeah. But, I mean, if the creators wanted to do something completely different, that's fine. They can do whatever they'd like. Anyone else can believe that she chose not to eat the chocolate, and that's completely fine, too. Yeah. I mean, as I said, there's a lot of evidence to support that. So whichever you choose, it's completely fine. Even if there is a sequel, they can choose to do either way. Right. Which is great.
I don't think there should be a sequel. I think
I think a lot of movies should not have sequels.
This is one of them, for sure.
This is one of them.
And I think this movie works leaving the ending ambiguous like this because it leads to discussion. And like you said, you came to your conclusion based on some evidence that you found. But at the same time, you could justify why she wouldn't have gone with eating the candy and why she would have left it. So there's different ways to look at it. And I like it for that reason. I like ambiguous endings when they're done well. And I think this one does it well. If it's not done well and it's just like a piss off, like open-ended, like it doesn't tie up the strings, like doesn't answer the questions, it pisses me off a lot of times if it's not handled well. But I think this one handles it well overall.
There's a lot of things that are ambiguous that I love to search questions for, but this one feels so open-ended and that there's like almost enough evidence for you to support it. It can go either way, and I'm not upset. And generally, a lot of the times, I am upset with ambiguous endings. So, no, this one definitely does it right.
So, before... I mean, we've gone through the ending. We went through all the rules with deep discussion about it. Before we get on to our overall thoughts and overall ratings, what we think of it as a horror movie, what we think of it as a Christmas movie, all of that, let's go through our Darwin Award nominees and crown a winner.
I'll start with the first one, I guess.
Yeah.
How about Ava for eating chocolates in a basically ancient calendar?
Yeah, well, it's an antique calendar, we know.
Yeah, I guess just forget the rules that she had to read to go along with it, but just eating chocolate from a calendar that she got from her friend that was stolen
from Germany.
German chocolate's pretty good,
but you don't know how long it's been in the calendar.
Yeah, it looks old.
The calendar's old as fuck. Clearly, it's clearly old and weathered, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, just setting the rules aside. Like, the rules state if you eat one chocolate, you have to eat them all, and blah, 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 you're going to die. Even putting that aside, just eating this old chocolate from this calendar seems kind of stupid to me. So I think that's why she's nominated.
Yeah.
Second nominee, we got the stepmother Agnes. Agnes, that's her name. I forgot what her name was.
Yeah.
Good thing we have it written down.
Sure. Yeah, I know we're not reading off of the script.
But anyways, she's nominated for being a straight up bitch to Eva, who's trying to connect with her dying father. He doesn't have any memory left, and the stepmother barely lets Eva into her father's house, even when she's trying to have that connection on his final leg, I guess, of his life.
So, not to mention that Agnes also looks at the calendar and is like, what's the most logical thing to do with a gift? Burn it, burns it, and dies.
Yeah.
I forgot the exact method that she died, to be honest. But all I remember is that specific sequence of events happening.
So yeah, that's stepmother Agnes. You want to go to the next nominee?
Yeah. Obviously Boris.
Yeah.
Boris sexually abusing and groping Ava while she was asleep, thinking she was going along with it when she says she can't feel anything. And yeah, no, he might have deserved to die.
Definitely. Yeah, she says... For whatever reason,
he tried to justify it, and that's the worst part.
Yeah, he justified it by saying, "Oh, I thought you were just going along with it," meaning like he thought she could actually feel down there.
Yeah,
and, like it's like why would she be in a wheelchair if she could feel her legs and shit and like, and not to mention even if she could feel it, she falls asleep in your car and all of a sudden you start fingering her. Like what the fuck? What's wrong with you? Anyways, I'm glad that fucker died, and he definitely deserved a spot on her list. I hate him. Anyways, last nominee for the Darwin Awards is William. The reason we nominate him is for dumping the advent calendar when it's clearly not his. Well, first of all, it says don't dump me or you'll die. Even if you thought that was bullshit, it's not his belonging to throw away in the first place. Yeah. Sure, he does kind of suspect that it's having an ill effect on Eva, so he's trying to help her. But it's still not his to throw away. She kind of clearly is hanging on to it for some reason. And, yeah. Nominated for throwing shit away that's not his. Yeah. And then dying because of it. So who do you think is the winner between Eva, stepmother Agnes, Boris, or William?
I think you're going to agree with me, but I think Boris.
Yeah, I got to agree with you.
Nice, okay. Yeah.
Clearly stupid. Not to mention just, like, disgusting what he did. Yeah. So... Definitely Darwin Award nominee and winner, for sure.
Justifying it. Like, why do people double down on the stupidest fucking things?
I don't know. But he was there to be hated and love to see him die, so...
Should we do something else that I thought of recently, which is... it's almost like an anti-Darwin Award. I don't know exactly what to call it.
Intelligence award?
Like, what would we call it? Like, who's a smart guy? Einstein. It's like an Einstein award.
Einstein award?
Yeah. If I were to give an Einstein award, it would be to Swimmer Hunk.
For even figuring it out?
Like, for figuring out the
technicality?
Plot hole. Yeah, the technicality.
Yeah. I can't argue with that. can't give it to the dad. He doesn't remember anything.
Yeah.
So how are you going to give an Einstein award to someone who doesn't remember anything?
I mean, if he makes a stupid decision even though he can't remember, or if he makes a smart decision even though he can't remember.
Yeah.
That'd be my Einstein award.
I can't argue with that. I mean, we pretty much nominated almost every other character for Darwin Award. Sophie, she's just a piece of shit too. She could have been a Darwin nominee as well for just being a bitch to her friend, stealing the date
being a bad
and stuff.
friend.
So she's not the Einstein winner.
Yeah, you can even say another hit to Ava would be, what is it? Another hit to Ava would be going with her friend and Hunter, Sophie and Hunter, on the camping trip, even though there's a good chance that they die, and she knew that.
Yeah.
She's like, I thought she said, like, I need to be away from civilization or something like that.
She did, yeah. Which is why they thought it was a good idea to take her there, because it was like in the woods or forest or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I can't think of anybody else other than the swimmer guy.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything stupid. He was only there to help Eva in the end. And
he was in like maybe 2 scenes.
one in the beginning, I think a couple in the beginning maybe, and then one in the end where he figured out the technicalities to the rules. So yeah,
seemed like a good guy.
Decent enough guy. Yeah, can't argue with that one.
That's our first ever official
Einstein Award,
I guess.
But yeah, so now that we got all that out of the way, what are your overall thoughts on this movie? I guess let's start as a horror movie, aside from being a Christmas movie.
Okay.
Let's say our thoughts on that.
So as a horror movie, I'd say 8 out of 10. Fairly solid watch. I mean, obviously this is my first time watching it.
Yeah.
I'd go back to it for sure. I like the build-up of either good or bad things happening because of the advent calendar.
Right.
Ava was a good overall character. The ending was left ambiguous, yet there was enough clues and I guess enough of a thought process to argue either side for it. So it wasn't ambiguous in the sense, like there was clues for both sides.
Yes, you could come up with an answer both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas it wasn't just leaving you in the dark and not giving you any explanation at all.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
As your horror movie, I know that you liked it a lot because of our 2021 horror movie review.
Yeah. So, honestly, the first time I watched it, I ranked it 8 out of 10 as well. And that was enough to rank it A tier on our tier list because it's 80% or higher is kind of what our A tier is.
80 to 9.
80 to 89, technically. Yeah. So, that was A tier for us. And, yeah, that's why we ranked it A tier. I mean, obviously, I was the only one that had a say in it last year, but I'm glad you agreed with me in that ranking. The second time I actually got more out of it and liked it even more because I had watched the video that we shouted out a couple times, and I kind of a little bit understood those deeper connections and was able to think about it a little bit more with the hallucinations and stuff. I kind of thought about more and thought about how that was a possible explanation for a lot of the things. So I liked it a little bit more. Not enough to rank it S tier, but it was 8.5 out of 10 on the second viewing, so it bumped it up 5% for me. I would still keep it as A. It's not a perfect movie. We mentioned some of the plot holes, and logistically some of it doesn't make sense, like the one scene where she's speaking to him from almost another dimension from the bathroom, writing on the calendar. It doesn't make sense. It's a cool scene. I like it, but it doesn't make sense. So there's nitpicks like that can take it down a notch, I guess. And it's not an S tier movie because of that. But I could suspend my disbelief rather to at least keep it an A tier movie, for my opinion.
Yeah, definitely one of the better foreign films that I've seen. I want to see. I know there's a lot of good J horror, but I've been very impressed with all French horror.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of good French horror for sure.
A lot of it that's unseen. A while ago, Tucker and I watched a movie called, I think it's like 1550 Elms Way, about a movie where a guy has to escape from his captor by playing chess.
Yeah.
I think, super good, super underrated. Definitely give it a watch if you'd like to.
Well, I think foreign horror in general, for us, is an untapped market.
Yes.
In general.
Yep.
Like, we've both seen a good chunk of foreign films, obviously, but there's a ton that we haven't explored, and it's something that I would like to explore more because it's just the most unfamiliar to me, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyways,
I don't like reading subtitles like that.
I don't mind subtitles, so it's easier for me to watch them. But
it's a little bit harder, but depending on the movie, if it, especially with movies that have a lot less to read, such as Martyrs. I remember the first time I've watched Martyrs was on, I think it was Discord with Tucker.
During COVID. We were all in lockdown.
Yeah. And the subtitles about halfway through the movie just...
I'd say 3/4.
Yeah, about like 2/3.
Sure.
Yeah, 2/3 of the movie just like cut.
And we didn't even notice.
And it didn't matter because it didn't make a difference.
Yeah, until the end.
Until the very end.
When Mademoiselle is talking, and then it does matter.
Yeah.
But,
and then Tucker had to describe to me and everyone else watching like what was going on.
But yeah, for the most part, you didn't need to hear the subtitles. At least halfway through, it's like it wasn't.
And that's the perfect type of person. Like I occasionally am the type of person that likes to go on my phone, look up facts about the movie, look what all the other actors have been in, so on and so forth. So if it's a foreign movie, I can't do that because my eyes have to be glued to the TV because I have to hear what's going on.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. For me, I like the subtitles, and I like it for the exact reason you're explaining is because I can't go and watch my phone or anything.
And that's the other thing. Sometimes I like... I actually always like subtitles when watching movies for the main fact that... especially for our movie nights, we're always talking. Like, there's always, like, a side conversation about the movie, sometimes not about the movie. Mm-hmm. But it's nice to be able to pay attention when you want to and don't want to, I guess.
Yeah.
You don't always have to listen. Sometimes if there's a conversation overpowering the movie, you can just look at the subtitles and still understand what's going on if you're really into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, now that we've gone off the rails...
Yeah, a little bit, sorry.
That's fine. Shall we rank it as a Christmas movie?
Yeah, as a
horror
Christmas
movie. We ranked it 8 and 8.5 out of 10. What's your ranking for a Christmas movie out of 10?
6.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm going on. Okay, so
6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, not a lot of Christmas decor. That is fair. I don't think I saw a Christmas tree throughout the entire movie.
There is Christmas trees. They're just always in the background. They're never in the foreground. Yeah. They're never like...
They're never like something you search for. Like,
no, it's always
hard to see.
It's always blurry because it's not focused and it's in the background.
Yeah.
I know for sure they're there, though.
William gets thrown into a lake. It's not frozen. It's not Christmas.
Well, it's not frozen everywhere in the world.
It's not really snowing all the time like it is in Canada come... October. Sometimes.
Not everywhere in the world goes to freezing temperatures for Christmas.
Yeah. Anyways, however, the Advent calendar in itself is a Christmas item, a Christmas themed item.
Yeah.
And how many Christmas themed movies are based off an Advent calendar?
None that I think of.
Yeah, none that I think of.
And I love that aspect.
That aspect of it is completely new, fresh idea. So I like that. The way that they definitely did that as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it's just something very small that they based off a Christmas-themed item, and it's so easy to make a horror movie on it.
Oh, yeah. I'm surprised it took this long.
Yeah.
Because it worked so well.
Yeah, so easy, like Advent calendar. Boom.
Yeah.
25 things. Cursed artifact.
Mm-hmm.
Make it do what you want. Cursed things. You have to open it every day. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Very well done. Great idea. Christmas-themed movies. When I think of Christmas, I think of things like Christmas trees, carols,
Christmas lights,
Santa. Yeah,
all that. Yeah.
All that. It didn't have any of that. It had an Advent calendar.
Yeah.
So in saying that, the Advent calendar alone, because there's no Advent calendars, a lot of other horror, or I guess Christmas movies for that matter even.
Yeah.
6.5, but obviously it didn't have like the carols, things like that, where in comparison to a movie like Krampus would be a lot higher in terms of like Christmas movies
getting
or
in
Christmas
the Christmas spirit
movies.
type of thing. Yeah. And I have share the same, I guess, opinions, but I rank it 5 out of 10 for a Christmas movie because, yes, I mentioned there is some Christmas trees. They're always in the background. And decorations, they're always in the background. You don't really get to see them unless you're looking at the background rather than what they're focusing on. But obviously, like you said, the Advent calendar feels Christmassy, and there is a lot of biblical connections which I learned about through that video, which helps with the Christmas feeling because obviously that's a Christian holiday. But overall, it just doesn't bleed the Christmas spirit like Krampus
Bleed
would.
the Christmas spirit. Yeah.
Bleed, yes.
Yeah. No. We use that as an example for like Halloween horror movies.
So Trick or Treat bleeds Halloween spirit.
Bleeds Halloween. Halloween 3 bleeds Halloween.
Yes, but this movie, for some other Christmas horror movie, doesn't bleed Christmas spirit. So that's why I rank it 5 out of 10. The Advent calendar is Christmas. It's a Christmas item, so it bumps it up a little bit. Like, without the Advent calendar, it'd be like a fucking 1 out of 10 maybe. Like, there would be no Christmas theme to
there'd
this.
be no Christmas theme in general. Yeah.
It obviously...
Like, I don't even think they mentioned Christmas throughout the entire movie.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
They don't mention it. It's just kind of there. It obviously you're aware that the setting is Christmas because of the calendar, but I feel like you can enjoy this movie any time of year because it doesn't bleed the Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
Where some of these Christmas horror movies you can't watch unless it's around winter or Christmas time because it's like, why am I watching a winter? Why am I watching Krampus?
Why am I watching Jack Frost?
Yeah, like none of this makes sense. But this movie, because it doesn't bleed that Christmas spirit, I feel like you could enjoy it any time of year.
Yeah.
Which is why I rank it high. Well, part of the reason why I rank it high, 8.5 out of 10 as a horror movie. But as a Christmas movie, it just doesn't get me in that Christmas spirit, I guess. So that's why it's a 5 out of 10. 50%. It's halfway there. Well,
anyways,
I think we covered a lot of ground just going through those rules. We kind of talked about what our thoughts on the movies were. We went into some deeper ideas about the movie rather than just on a surface level. We both said what we thought about the film. We both enjoyed it, thought it was a unique take on how to tackle a Christmas film. We've never seen anybody do it with an Advent calendar, so we were both glad to see this. If you've been listening up to this point, we want to thank you. It's been over an hour. So if you have any suggestions that you want us to take a look at, make drinking games for, make our cocktails or drinks for, review in podcast format, whatever, let us know in the comments. We appreciate you being here. But anyways, in the meantime, this is us signing off. And thanks for tuning in. This is us saying
cheers to fears.